at the beginning, you didn't know how many people were going to turn up or whether they were going to be particularly into doing a takeover, which is essentially coming and showing some work for, I have to say, no money. It's just for the love of it. We've ended up with a situation where we have too many people wanting to do takeovers really for a given event, but also where we've got people who are coming back who've done, in Gez's case, work that was inspired really by doing a first takeover at the first soundings. So Gez really, maybe let's not overstate it, but there's a certain way in which this event tries to provide a platform if you want to develop something in your time and bring it along. So that's what I'm delighted has happened in this case, and Gez has been working on this. So I'll hand you over to Gez McCoy.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I've been to all of the events here since September. Thankfully, found out about that through someone and contacted Sam. Showed at the first one something that I built about 10 years ago, which was a bit more electronic. Then absolutely blown away with the performances that I've seen here and the machines that people have made. And sort of just got inspired to do stuff again. And after the last event, especially seeing the use of Meccano and toys, and so I went back and started rooting through boxes and finding bits and pieces. So basically, I've had this light shade for about 6 months and thought I need to do something with it, but I didn't know what. I had this bit of train track that I'd got and pulled together, and it just started to develop as I was thinking it'd be great to have the idea of the train running around it, see if I could get some sounds out of the bell or the gong of that it gives me those sort of sounds, and then I needed some. It's like I wanted something mechanically to beat against it, and just ended up in down the YouTube rabbit hole at some point, finding different inventions, mechanical inventions to beat stuff. And I found something that is basically an Indian temple drum. And they have these drums, I think they're called Arti or Arti Nagara drums. And they use motors for them, but I think traditionally they might have just sort of had a pedal set up with them. So what we've got here, I've got a tiny little silver box that I've put together, some Meccano, bits of springs and metal and rods that I pinched from work, and just started to get it all together. There's a little 9-volt battery in there. I've got a little switch unit so I can run the tempo of bring the voltage down of the motor so it runs the beats at a different slow or faster tempos. It's a little bit random at the moment, but it needs a bit of future-proofing, but in essence, that's working. And then you can see there's a bit of a colour thing going on here with the brass. And again, I just picked up bits and pieces lying around. Bits of brass rod that I've threaded and drilled in and screwed in. The springs, just a couple of old brass brackets I've bent into place, glued things on. The springs, so it just gives it a little bit of bounce, came out of an old printer. I didn't even know there were springs in printers, and I saw them, the top was ripped off it, saw the yellow and thought, that'll do, the colour looks good. And yeah, so it's come together since the last one, the last soundings that we had. I remember saying to you, can I show it? I was like, oh God, I've got to try and figure out how to get this going. I am going to run it through some delay, so I'm not totally acoustic yet, but we're getting there. The next one maybe. Yeah, we'll play it and see what comes out of it. Okay.
attention, please. Customers are reminded to mind the gap between the train and platform edge when boarding.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Gez. Any quick questions for Gez? What's next?
I don't know. I'll quickly show you what we've got here. So I'm trying to steal the thunder of Sam here because we were talking about this earlier and we both have a similar idea. So this is the beta, and it's just a motor here that spins this and a series of cogs, and we can run. So we've got 4 arms on this, so that hits 4 beats. That can hit 1 beat, 2 beats, 3 beats. You can move these around. I'd like to develop this a bit more, but I'd really like to put this on the back of a trike. So with a much bigger sort of setup with a drum and some cymbals and a few other bits and pieces. So, so that's the next idea.
You have quite a number of members of Bike Worcester in the room.
Okay.
So I think if you want to do bikes and instruments, that can happen. Cool. Thank you, Gez. Good stuff. Richard, for anyone that's been to previous soundings, you might be getting a bit familiar with quite a number of the faces now. This is Richard Sewell, who has now, this is your 3rd takeover, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah. And last time,
Is that right?
for those who were here, that involved traipsing around the outside of the building with a trolley that made techno that differed according to which part of the world it was in.
Good summary?
Good summary?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Richard Sewell.
Hello, hello. So this isn't a mechanical musical instrument, and it isn't really a performance.
Can they hear you?
Can you hear me? No. Can you hear
you
me now?
turn it off? I mean that, until it's ready.
Yeah, all right. How's that? Better? Yes. Good. Sorry about that. So for context, I am part of a company called Air Giants. We make giant joyful robots. So they are huge inflated robots, 6 meters tall, 10 meters long. We could maybe fit one in here if we tried, but usually they're for outdoors. We actually showed Luma, a giant kind of snail thing in Worcester, February last year. You might have seen in the Guildhall. Huge squishy snail object. What we have seen showing this work is that a lot of people really want to touch it. They want to have big tactile interactions with it. They want to hug it, squeeze it, lie back into it, all kinds of things, stroke it. And at the moment, the work is interactive, but it doesn't respond to that because we don't sense that stuff. And we are doing a project all this year to sense touch on these things and to respond in touch ways, which means building things that are things that can squish you, things that you can lie in and they'll wiggle you around, things that respond when they're stroked in a way that feels good to whoever's doing the stroking. We don't even know what that is yet, but it's research. And this is really a test piece for one of the ways of detecting touch. So there are a lot of aspects of touch that are interesting. There's pushes and squeezes and taps and rubs and people putting their weight on things and people changing their own shape when they're on a thing. And this is specifically about taps, little impacts. And because it's a nice way to do the demo, this just converts a measure of where you have tapped on the thing into a musical note via some cheap and terrible MIDI electronics, so we can tell what's going on. But that means that accidentally it's a musical instrument. It's not totally reliable. Like the same spot is usually the same note. usually it gets it right, but sometimes, especially in the middle, it's hilariously wrong. And although it's only really sensing in a couple of points on the skin, actually, hose has come unplugged and I'll stick it back in. It really detects taps anywhere on its surface. So you can indeed play it as an instrument. I'm not a musician. I can't really play an instrument. Would anybody like to have a play? Come and have a play.
I think everyone should come up and play it, personally.
So imagine there's a keyboard here. It's a bit more sensitive. Yeah, sort of. Yeah, big taps should be big noises. Little taps are little noises.
But you can't do you can't stroke.
No,
It has to be taps.
It has to be taps. And not too close together in time.
Make it look a lot easier. So it's just the top, is it?
No, anywhere you like, but the top gives you the best range, really. Like from here to here is...
Nice.
Play us a tune. No, they're over here is high.
Okay.
Over here is low. Sometimes there's just a mistake. If you stand over there, maybe you get sort of the access to the whole range.
Scale?
It's all the MIDI notes. Sorry? Yeah. Yeah, roughly higher is here and lower is here. Kind of the same all the way along this line. Should be about the same. Yeah, harder hits are louder. That's probably max volume. No, you get what you get. And really only one of you at a time, probably. It's like, you go. Sometimes it just goes wrong. Yeah. It's a work in progress.
Hello, that is Excellent. Thank you, Richard.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
So can you turn that motor off, and I'm going to ask you a couple of questions
Yes.
or request questions. I don't know what anyone else thinks about this, but I feel like the noise to signal ratio is unusual even by my standards.
This is a really quiet blower.
Because that blower relative to the note that you hear is very, very loud. I think Rob had a question, but then I'm going to open it to other questions.
Just two on either edge of the top. I mean, there's a lot more work to do with this. This is super early in the development of this as a way of sensing this. But with 4, we'd know where it was anywhere on the top. With probably 8, we'd know where it was differently on the sides as well.
Yes, any more questions, sorry?
How are they then, if you've got just the 2 sensors, how are they picking up?
It's what we're really looking for is, so when you tap the fabric, you send a wave, like a wave on a pond, traveling out through the fabric, and we're looking at the difference in time that wave arrives at the 2 sensors. And yeah, that's literally all it's doing. It's really a wave, like when you flick a piece of string and it does this kind of a thing. It's that traveling through the fabric. So it's a vertical motion in the fabric. The sound is also traveling through the fabric sort of directly, but that's much faster, and we're not really picking that up.
Does it have to be that shape?
No. Any shape at all. This is just a very easy shape to sew.
Any further questions? I realise I meant to repeat all the questions, but it's a bit late for that now, so that everyone can hear them. Any further questions? Yes?
Yeah, absolutely. Just needs more sensors, and they would work independently on the 2 axes. So yeah, maybe next week. Thank you. It's a very rough prototype of what we think it will be, but it will be for a very different case from this. I mean, this is easy enough to do as a demonstration, but we're really after sensing a whole other aspect of interaction that people don't usually sense at all. So, yeah, ask me again next year.
If anyone did witness the big, is it a snail? What is it?
Sort of. It's Luma.
Snaily thing. What's lovely about the robots that they make, these inflatable robots, is that they have loads of character, and so that one is remote controlled, isn't it?
Yes.
So you're in the room, remote controlling something which looks like a very large snail, and is able to have really intimate interactions with people. So a child will come up to the head of it, and then Luma will kind of come down and give it a little bit of that on the cheek or something like that, or almost like a pat on the head. And it's just really nice because these are huge, but they've got just such beautiful characters. And
thank you.
Yeah,
we try.
It's good.
We're from a weird mix of backgrounds in robotics and software and tech, but also puppetry and interaction design. And it's fairly rare to put those together, and it turns out you can do lovely, lovely things in that space if you do. Well, anyway, we like them.
Whereabouts are you based?
Bristol. Workshop in Avonmouth, in the shadow of the M5 bridge.
Cool. Thank you, Richard, again. He's coming. All right. Yes. You're going to hold those. Do you want to talk about it for a bit first?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And then I'll come. This is Tim, everybody.
Hello. So yeah, I'm not a musician. I just kind of like making things. I made this in about 2016, and at the time I was a bit obsessed with Steve Reich, a Steve Reich piece called Piano Phase, which some people I'm sure will know. So one of my interests is acoustic kind of representations of electronic music, or mechanical representations of electronic music, or stuff that sounds electronic. So for me, like, piano phase is like a classic of the genre. Steve Reich was doing tape manipulation, and then from doing stuff with tape, went on to write piano phase as an acoustic instrument, sort of a tune, inspired by his tape experiments, or the tunes that he wrote with tapes. So yeah, I was really into that tune. So I decided to build something kind of as a homage. This plays the last section of piano phase, which is a really simple melody. It's A, B, D, E, repeated, and then with the two pianos, it goes in and out of phase with itself. So there's two sets of glockenspiel notes, A, B, D, E, on both of them, and these two wheels rotate at different speeds, very slightly different speeds. So as the speed of one is slightly faster, it will go out of phase with the other one and then back into phase, and it just keeps changing. So it's very simple melody, but kind of constantly evolving, and then returning to its original melody, as it were. Sam sort of offered to lift the bike up to adopt a stress position whilst I turn the pedals. I'll just do a quick play of it again, and then I'll cycle out. So. Getting tired?
I'm all good. That's great.
Okay. I'll exit now then, yeah.
Tim Floyd, everyone.
All right. Cheers.
Tim, come hither in case there are any questions.
All right. Just pop that there.
Does anybody have any questions for Tim Floyd?
So you've got two kids really on the same axis, so different speeds.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to repeat that question because it was very quiet. I think the question was, you say you've got both sides running at different speeds. What coupling or what system are you using for doing that? Yeah.
Okay. Back wheel of the bicycle has a little wheel on it. As the bicycle wheel revolves, so does this kind of, well, it's more it's more like a tube on that back wheel. And then there's two inner tubes coming off that and onto the two smaller wheels that are on the pannier rack. So basically it's the two inner tubes that are driving those smaller wheels. where the back wheel of the bike is, the kind of tube that's rotating, one bit is very slightly fatter than the other. Just because of that small difference, those inner tubes are going at very slightly different speeds, and those little wheels are turning at slightly different speeds. Yeah.
Great. Any further questions?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, Gez.
Did you write it?
Did I write? Oh, no. I rode it from the other side of Worcester, but not with the glockenspiels playing.
I mean, Tim, I believe you come up from Yeovil.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, that's
bit
a
of
long
trek.
By anyone's standards, that is a long ride to come and do this. Any more questions?
Have you got plans to do any other pieces, or?
I think I'm going to leave it at that, to be honest. Yeah.
The question was, are there plans to do any other pieces? I mean, it feels like there are quite a lot of phase-related pieces that you could.
Yeah.
You have a trailer on by Takeover.
Yes, is the answer to that. Yes, you could. Yes, indeed. I have got a trailer. Yeah, we've been sharing work a little bit over email recently because I think when Tim first came and did a takeover here, there were lots of things that we experienced where there was a lot of crossover. So that kind of fascination with acoustic sound and music making that is somewhere in the shadow of electronic music is very much an interest to both of us. And then, I mean, when I saw the bike thing, I was like, oh, look what I've actually been doing this week, which was a bike-powered drum machine. And a lot of my instruments are one way or another pedal-powered. So I think it's going to all result in a collaboration, which is great. And that's really, I mean, Soundings has been great for that. I've met lots of really cool people. So, any further questions for Tim? If not, we shall move on. Thank you, Tim Floyd.